Now, coming to today's session on business canvas innovation, it is a workshop on the business model canvas, but with the lens of innovation, with the changing landscape, with AI and all the other things that are coming up. The business model canvas is at the heart of building a resilient, scalable venture. And one of the first things you should do as you explore various elements that go into your business to make informed decisions. So we're very, very lucky to have Jasmeet Singh leading us through the workshop. Jasmeet is a serial entrepreneur and ecosystem builder for the last 12 years in everything related to hardware and AI. Jasmeet has coached over 200 founders in 13 countries globally with their businesses and technology in the last 3 years. He is known by Bearded Maker on social media. He's gone viral several times, and he also helps startups get funding from investors in his network. So with that, Jasmeet, thank you so much for being here with us and leading this workshop, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, so I will cover a lot of the business model stuff, a little bit of how you can innovate with the product side as well as the business model side. And we'll talk a little bit about pretty much everything you need to do before you get to the business plan, which is a long, long document, like Alina just mentioned. Um, and I can't wait to get started. There is a lot to go over. I will tell you a little bit about me first. Let me just pull up my slides. Hold on, and then we'll get started. Give me one sec here. There you go. You should see my slide now. There we go. So I've been, like Lena mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur for since 2012. Started multiple companies in robotics, IoT, hardware stuff, a lot of AI stuff. I was doing a lot of self-driving. I built humanoids. So very high-end tech stuff. But in the last 3, 4 years, I've also helped small businesses. So I worked with CPG businesses. I've worked with food businesses. I've worked with animal, pet grooming businesses, and all kinds of sort of small businesses that have come up in US, Canada, and a bunch of other places. So that's a little bit of my background. I've been a mentor to a lot of founders. I've worked with a lot of incubators, and I have also been an angel investor for a long period of time. Let's get started. So everybody's familiar with, I'm sure everybody is familiar or has an idea for what they want to do. I hope you do. If you don't, that is okay. That is the first step. When you have an idea, it's usually when you are talking about what you want to do. It's you see a problem and you want to solve that problem. And that is usually the first step of starting a business. You're talking with your friends, you're hanging out after work, and you see a problem and you think, oh, yeah, that'd be $1 million idea if somebody built it. And then suddenly you find yourself saying, why don't we build it? And that is usually the first step of how any business gets started. And I want this session to be very interactive. So if you have an idea, great. Please do share what your idea is. If you don't have an idea, that's okay. But still, if you have some inkling of what you want to do, feel free to share in the chat. Say that again. Oh,
Sorry, can we request everybody to make sure that your mics are muted?
okay.
Sorry about that, Jasmeet. We'll just
Not a
quickly
problem.
move them.
Not a problem. There's 100+ people, so it's totally okay. Uh, give me one sec here. All right. So that's usually the first step. You have the idea, you have something that you might want to build, and by product, I mean the thing that you supply. It could be a service, it could be a physical thing that you hold, it could be a cleaning service, it could be a software that you supply, whatever it is. It could be anything. Whatever that core thing is the product that you're supplying. And that's what you do. That represents what you offer the world. Everything around that, once you have the product in mind, literally everything around that, how that product goes from your mind into the hands of the customer is the business model. So everything, every single step of that process is the business model. And business models is something that you can change quickly if you're a startup. That's one of the advantages that you have. But it's the only thing that matters when your product is not unique. Let's say you're in a place where there's a lot of competition. You are in a business that has there's multiple other people offering that business model. If you innovate within the model, it will be one of the things that separates you from everybody else. And we'll talk about a lot of examples at the end of this. But it's as important to have an innovation within the product itself, if you can. If it's a highly technical product, you probably have some sort of an innovation happening within the product. But even if you don't have innovation within the product, you can still be better than your competition if you innovate within the business model. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So, why does that matter though? So, when you're building a business, some of the things, the first hurdle is why are you doing it? Of all the things that you could be doing with your life, of all we all have 24 hours in a day. Why are you allocating, 6 hours, 8 hours of your day, sacrificing your sleep for whatever you're building? Why is this important to you? That's one of the questions that you need to absolutely answer before you even get to the rest of the stuff. Why you're building it is going to be supremely important because of how it will shape your business. Because of if you are on a mission to do something, it will be separate from somebody else's mission. It will set you apart from somebody else's vision. It will set you apart from how you approach building that business compared to how your competitor does it. If you are really, really hungry about building that business, you will go faster than your competition. If you are really motivated to build it, no matter what kind of hurdles you have, you will jump through those hoops and you will always stay motivated to kind of get to that end goal that you have in mind. So it's very important to be clear about why you're building it. Your why is one of the main things that guides your business at the core of it. Then comes who are you building it for? Why are you building it for them? Who are these people that you're building it for? Because obviously you're not just building for yourself, you are building for customers. Why is it that you want to build for those customers? Why this space? Why this sector? Do you have experience in this sector? What have you done to make sure that you have and know deep insights into that sector? So that is equally important because if you don't know why you're building it or who you're building it for, everything else falls apart. So you have to be very careful that you know both of those things. If you are clear on why you're building it, you will go out there and you'll talk to people and you'll talk to customers, potential customers, even without um, knowing what you might expect. Go with an open mind. And then you will talk to them and say, oh, this is what I want to build for this particular sector because I see a problem. What you're building is obviously one of the things that your customer cares about. They they have a problem and they need a solution to that problem. You are ready to provide that solution. Is your solution the kind of solution that they're looking for? That is also very important. If you say, "Oh, I am going to build a software to solve your problem," but they are not looking for software to solve that problem, they're looking for something else. They're looking for more human resources. They're looking for something else. It's not the right kind of solution. So all three of those things are supremely important when you're starting a business. So that's just to stay motivated. If you know those things, if those are clear to you, you will pretty much cross every hurdle there is. And you will have a long-term goal in mind. You will know where your life is going, what your personal life might look like at the end of this journey of starting this business. Why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? So that founder market fit is very important. You're the founder. Why are you in this particular market is an extremely important question to have. Is hopefully that's clear to everybody so far. Yep. Okay. Second thing is execution. Now you have some substance. Now you have a product in mind. How do you get it into the hands of customers? Like I said, all the decisions that go into that is the business model, and the execution of those decisions is the traction. And we'll talk about a little bit about that later. But execution of those ideas is more important than the ideas themselves. Everybody here has seen local mom and pop shops. What separates the one from the other? What separates a clothing store one from the other? What separates a grocery store from the other? Those are questions, those are usually execution-based decisions that have taken a physical form, but that is where you can do a lot of changes super quickly because you know what your idea is, you know what your product is. That product is probably not going to change quite a lot, right? So that product is what you're offering. Everything around those, the decisions on who you target, who do you send it to, how do you get it to them, all of those decisions are things that you can super quickly iterate on and kind of figure out, okay, this is the decision, this is what I want to do. This is not working, I will go this route and I'll try something else. Um, so product market fit, does that product fit the market? Does that product, is it being supplied in the right way to the customer? So the channel fit is very important. Is the channel that I'm using and the pricing I'm using, is that the right fit? If I'm supplying this product through physical means, do people expect to pay less for this or do they expect to pay more for this? So that pricing and channel also needs to fit. And all of these decisions, again, are combined into the model plus market fit. Um, this is all just an overview of just the basics of entrepreneurship. So if you want to start a business, all of these things you should be absolutely 100% clear on. And you will see people with great ideas and weak execution uh, get into depression just because they thought that idea was enough, and it's never enough. You can build an idea, but if you're not executing on that idea, it will not be enough for any business, and that's true for anything. It doesn't just stop at the idea. It involves a lot of sweat equity, and you have to stay motivated for that, which is why the earlier three questions are super important for that. So let's talk about traditional businesses and innovative businesses. What happens, how you can iterate, how you can kind of leverage AI at some point in your business. Not every business needs AI, but it's good to have. Um, Traditional businesses, usually mom and pop shops, usually brick and mortar, anything, things that you've seen out into the world, they're very set in terms of how they're executed. Like, say, I wanted to start a real estate firm. If I wanted to start a real estate firm, I would probably look at what that industry is doing right now and try to follow that same model. I was like, okay, this company does this thing. All the other real estate people do the same thing. I can also do this thing. I can execute on this. This is a guiding model for me, even if I don't have an innovative brain or I don't want to play around, I don't want to take a lot of risks. Traditional businesses do work. And the thing is that those models have been tried and tested. That's what separates them. Their models have been defined for a long, long time. They've been invested in. A lot of them have failed. A lot of them have succeeded. And so you know what the succeeded people have done. And so you can kind of just copy paste and do the whole thing over and over and over again. You can usually get bank loans for those kinds of things. You can usually get a lot of support for those kinds of things because banks understand it. Banks are like, yeah, this is something I understand. You want to open up a bakery, I understand a bakery, right? So it's not a lot of innovation going on. This is straightforward. These are the revenues. These are the numbers that go into an ice cream shop in general. And this yours looks like it's go following the same model. Works for us. And banks usually don't want to take risks, so they only go with the option that are tried and tested. So those are the traditional models. They're very rigid. It's already been done. They're very linear. The steps are laid out to you, and you can follow those steps and you can execute it to perfection. and that industry is probably not going anywhere. Another example of that is a car wash. A car wash business, probably a very tried and tested model. If you wanted to open up a car wash business, you easily could copy what somebody else is doing, do the same thing yourself. While innovative models are usually something, whether it's the product being innovated or the business model is being innovated, they, because they're doing the innovation, one people, two people, maybe a three, four, five um, founding team that's doing this, they have to be very lean. This is something that's never been done before. So it's very hard to bring people into the team if you are not clear on your vision. And even then, it'll be very hard to get a lot of people into the team early on. So you have to be very lean in what you're doing. You have to try multiple things and see which one fits. You have to talk to customers and say, you have this problem, I have this solution. Would you recommend changes? Is there something I can do here that might be different than what you're traditionally seeing? Is there something that nobody else has done for you that I can change? So whether it's that in the product, that's on the product side, whether it's on the business model side, doesn't matter. But you have to talk to those customers to be able to get to the final decision of what works for you. Your customer is going to throw a lot of information at you, and they're going to say, well, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want 10 different features. And but you don't have enough team to build those features. You don't have enough people. You don't have enough funding. You don't have enough resources to deliver those features. So what you have to do is listen to it, but also try and filter out, this is the only thing that I want to build. Of these 10 features, the main three are these that everybody wants, and I will build those three, but I may not have all the resources for building all of those threes. So let me just do the first two that I can actually build, right? So you have to plan for what you're going to do now, what versus what you're going to do in the future. And those kinds of innovations, it's a very iterative model. You have to keep going back to the customer, keep them in the loop. A lot of people now do this thing where they build in public. And so as soon as you start building, you start posting on Twitter, and people will start to see it, and you'll drive customers and also feedback, also early adopters. So it's a great way to build it. Or you can open source something and you can find people that way who want to be a part of the community, who want to help you build it. But then you're stuck doing something that's only open source. But you can also create a branch of that might be closed source using all of the people that you've gathered. So if you can create a community around what you're doing, it's one of the best ways to do innovation on a cheap budget. If you can post on Reddit and gather a bunch of people, that's a great way of doing it. Um, so traditional versus innovative, I hope that difference is clear. It's something that's tried and tested and something that's never been done before. So or that combination of things has never been done before. And we'll talk about the combinations. But that is the difference between traditional and innovation. So what are the core questions that you have to ask? Well, you know what you're building, you know what the product is or what the idea is. The core questions of the business model is, how will you build it? And how, there's multiple questions of how. How will your customers find you? What will they pay? And how will you deliver this? And business model canvas looks like either of those two. So it can be easy as writing things down on a napkin, or answering all those four questions in as much detail as you want, or you can write a bullet point and you can just start writing this. These are my customer segments. These are the relationships I want. These are the value propositions, what I'm going to give them, resources. Basically, these four questions will answer how you run your business. Everything that you do within that business is going to be answered by these four questions. You can download we'll obviously send you the slides, but you can also download the business model canvas on the canvanizer.com website. You can build your own. And like Alina said, you have to get to the business plan. Before you get to the business plan, you have to understand the difference between the two. The business plan is something that is working. The business model is something that is built. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is not working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. The business plan is something that is built. The business plan is something that is working. 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 The and you expect to scale for the next 6 months or a year. That's the plan that has been finalized, and you are going to build on that plan and execute that plan. Like Lena said, that goes to your grants, that goes to banks, that goes to investors. So if you deviate from that plan, it doesn't look good to your investors in whatever capacity they come in. They are expecting you to execute that particular plan and not deviate too much from it. So you have to get to that plan is the goal to get to that plan to that is to be able to execute for, 6, 12 months. But the now that is like a, 30, 40, 60 page document that you have to do. That document is not easy to edit every day. That document is not very easy to iterate every day. It's very important to, when you're starting a business, you may not know half those things of what to do to run your business. How will you deliver? I have no idea. I will figure it out when I get there. And so that cannot go into the plan, but you might have some idea. They don't go into the plan, they go onto the canvas. You list out the options. This is what I'm going to play around with. This is what I'm going to test out. These are the things I want to figure out and make sure that this is working. If they're not working, I will change these. And that is what goes on the canvas, because canvas is one page. It's super easy to edit. It's super easy to manipulate. It could be in a Google Doc or a slide. And so it doesn't take a lot, right? So that's what the difference is between the canvas versus the plan. So these four questions, how will you build? How will customers find you? What will they pay you? And how will you deliver? We're going to go into a little bit more detail of that. So how will you build? As a startup, your only advantage over a corporate person, like over Google, over Microsoft, over Facebook, is that you can execute faster than everybody else. Why? Because in those companies, it takes 10 people to get to a meeting and just to have a conversation of what to discuss in the next meeting, right? Or something needs a budget approval, it takes months to get that budget approved. While if you're a team of three and you work really well together, you can just decide in like 10 minutes how much resources are going to go into a thing and what we're going to allocate our resources to. So that speed of execution of the decisions that you're going to make, all of these things are decisions that you're going to make, right? And so everything, all those decisions, the moment you start executing them, if one thing doesn't work, you will change it and you'll go with whatever is working the best. It might not be perfect, but it is working the best for what you're doing right now. You don't look at the business plan is also always evolving. It's you're not constantly as you grow, it continues to evolve depending on what you have available to you. So your resources will grow, your team will grow, your partners will grow, the more people get attached to that idea. So the business plan is always changing. The kind of customers you're targeting might change as you grow, or the number of customers might change. And you might have to figure out how to scale all of the things that you were doing. Like if I have a grocery store versus a grocery chain, it's a very different dynamic. If I have a grocery store, I only service maybe a 2 block radius of customers. But if I have a grocery chain, I want to have profits from one going into setting up the other one and the next and the next and the next. So that scaling takes time and effort. And so you kind of have to figure out the one first before you can get to the other. So start small. Don't worry about going after big things. Start small, figure out small decisions, and just do it super quickly. And so it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be the best option available right now. That's all it has to be. So you're going to try different things. You're going to measure the impact of each of those things. So how do you figure out if it's perfect or this is performing better than the other? You measure it. You say this one got me, let's say I'm using a technique to get more customers. One technique, one marketing technique will cost me this much and got me 100 customers, and the other marketing technique got me 100 customers, but only for half the price. So I'm going to go with the one that cost me half the price. So those decisions you have to measure of what you're looking to do and then adapt. If one thing doesn't work, choose the other one, whichever one's better. You run those models more, and that is how you get to the final version of that business model canvas. And once you have the final version of the canvas, you can make it into a business plan, right? So continuing on how will you build? The second most important thing is that experiments is better than assumptions. If you are running the experiments, let's say you've made an assumption that your customers are these people and they will buy it and they have a need for it, and you've assumed a lot of things and you release it to the market and nobody buys it, if you don't challenge some of those assumptions, you will continue to force a bad idea and a bad execution into trying to see, oh yeah, this should work. Why is this not working? And you're just hitting your head against a wall at that point. So if you can challenge your assumptions, it's always better. Every single assumption that you're making when you're starting a business of why people want this, who will buy this, all the questions, or what they will pay for it, um, all of those assumptions have to be tested. Those are hypotheses. You have to test them out and you have to experiment and you have to see if it's actually possible for people to want this, of what you are thinking people are responding to, right? So first thing is it desirable? Do people want this? What I have this assumption, are people willing to pay for it, right? Are people saying that this is something that they might want? Viable can I actually build this? Is it possible for me to build this? Is it too tough? Does it require skills me and my team do not have right now? Is there a way to do this? Um, let's say I want to build a dream catching machine. You dream and it records your dream and next day shows you your dream in 4K on a TV screen. Is it possible for me to do? I don't know yet, right? So how will I record the dream? How will I convert it into 4K? How will I make sure that it's actually representative of the dream I had in while I was sleeping? So is it viable for me to do? So this could be a very, very big idea technologically, but also is a business decisions at what resources do I have? Is it viable for me with the resources I have for me to actually do this? If both of those answers are true, then you say, oh, this is feasible. This is actually possible for me to do. This is actually something people want. But I might not be able to do all of it right now, but I can do some of it. So these are the feasible bits of it, and this is the 5-year goal for it. This is something I want to achieve in the next 2 years. So this is going to be feasible in the next 2 years, but this other part can be done right now. So which part of it is feasible, which part of it is not feasible? That's the decision that you kind of have to make. So that's again, how will you build? This is continuation of that. When you're building, you're basically iterating, you're trying to figure out the best way possible to build that product. And during this, oh yeah.
Just mean, sorry, I see Fareen has their hand up since
Oh,
a
yeah.
bit.
Oh, absolutely. Brahim.
Fareen, did you have a question?
Your previous slide,
Hmm.
um, where you're saying to experiment before making assumptions. Without you fully kind of, whether it's a service or a product, how do you determine that? Would you be able to walk us through an actual example of,
Sure.
without actually going full force with it, to see is it a product market fit? Are people willing to pay for the service or product that you're offering? Like, how do you test that without actually implementing it and putting it out there to see if people will pay for it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's ways to do this on paper. Let's say you could just design something. Let's say I don't know what your business is, but do you want to share what your business is, and I can kind of customize the answer for you?
So I'm still in the iteration phase,
Yeah.
but any example like the car wash or what have
Sure.
you gave or anything that you think of.
Let's take a business, let's say a candle making business, right? Um, Now candle makers exist, a lot of candle makers exist. I want to say I want to build candles that have unique scent. Now that scent doesn't have to be in a candle, or it's very cheap to make candles. But if I wanted to, if I knew how that scent works, I could create a alternative way for people to smell that thing and give me their point of view of whether or not they want to have a candle. So that's where prototypes come in. That's where you can draw things on piece of paper and say, specifically in software, you can draw on piece of paper and say, this is what we might be offering you. Is this something you want to buy? This might be available in like 3 months. Is this a solution that you want to buy? The other thing is when you go and talk to a customer, you go in with zero assumptions and let them tell you what they want. You go in and let's say I'm in the elder care business. I'm in a caretaking business for elderly people, right? I go in from an external perspective. I have no idea about that industry. I have no clue. I have no, I've never been in that industry. I've never worked in that industry. If you have a bit of experience in that industry, it's even better. But let's say you don't. You go in to one facility and you talk to anybody that you can and you listen to their problem. You say, "Can you sit down with me for like half an hour during your lunch break and tell me all the problems that you face as a professional providing the service to the elderly and you're managing this whole facility?" Or you talk to the elderly people there and say, what are some of your challenges when you're living here? What is it that you are always complaining about? What is it that I can help you with? And you just listen. So that's one way of challenging your assumptions by going at it like you don't know anything, right? So when you've been in industry long enough, you might have a lot of assumptions because you've been in that industry, but you will, based on those, just from your own experience, you will probably make some assumptions that will turn out to be wrong, like on the pricing or on this is a problem that you're facing, and you say, oh, yeah, this is something that I'm facing. I want to build something that will solve the problem for me. But you haven't talked to all the other people at that same level and your colleagues who don't have that problem. They just don't their brain works differently. They don't have an issue with that. They don't see that as a problem. So they might not end up buying your thing. So you have to challenge those assumptions all the time.
No, I
Did
think
I did that answer your question? Hopefully, a little bit. I'll
yeah, no,
cover
no,
a
you
little
did
bit
it.
more.
Yeah, no, no, you did address it. When you started off with the scented candles or just drawing on a tissue paper,
Yeah.
and you said to kind of have those conversations with
Yeah.
potential clients, how do you even get them to the table without, without the assumption of wasting their time or what have you to be like, hey, this is a scent or this is what we're drawing out, just that piece where you get them to
Yeah.
the table to understand if this would be something they would pay for or not.
You have to be out there. You have to be very extroverted. You have to go to every event, every single conference, every single potential place that where your customers might hang out. The people who want your product will be hanging out, and you try and target those spots. If you, the good thing is these days, if you go out with a mic
Mhm.
in your phone, people will think you're recording something for YouTube and they'll give you their opinion, right? So you can turn it into a podcast or give them the perception that you're recording something. And people will answer your questions if they're interested. And you can wear your branding on a t-shirt while you approach people. And that is the cheapest way of doing it. Like say, or have, some sort of a sign next to you that encourages people to come talk to you. While you're working in a co-working space or a coffee shop, on your bag or something, have some sort of a graphic that will attract people's attention. So there's multiple ways of doing this to encourage them to come talk to you, but also for you to go and talk to them. Wherever they're hanging out, you go in, insert yourself, and talk to them about it. It's never a linear process. It's never a linear process. It's always going to be ups and downs and lots of loops in there. Um,
Thank
but
you.
it can also seem like, so a caveat to that is going to a lot of these things, a lot of networking events and a lot of conferences, if you're not targeting the right kind of audience, you can feel like you're making progress, but when you're not actually doing progress, if you're gathering the opinion of people who are not your target customers, you will again create assumptions that are wrong. So you have to be very sure of who you're targeting when you get to that stage. So I'll cover a little bit more. Let me go into this. So
Thank you.
uh, this is the stage of the validation. This is you have some sort of a proof of concept. Proof
Jasmine,
of concept.
sorry.
Oh yeah.
There's another question. Xavier has his hand up. We'll take Xavier's question, and I know you have
Yeah,
tons of material left as well. So after Xavier's question, we'll be back to your material.
absolutely.
Xavier, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Jazz. If you're, it's close to what you were just talking about as well. So if you were gonna mention the next slide, feel free to continue. But it's mainly kind of understanding how we're on to understand when we are on the right track. So say I take your advice, I go out into the market and say I'm go back in time and I'm building Uber, and all the feedback
Hmm.
is like I'll never go into a car with a stranger.
Hmm.
Absolutely not.
Hmm.
So in that sense, I don't want to make assumptions because you want to see if it works, but then I
Hmm.
don't want to just say no to my idea because I'm getting bad feedback. Is there like an example where you
Yeah.
can pull the the trigger, or is there still a way to teach the other people about this new market that they never thought of?
So there is I will come back to that question because I like literally on the last I'll cover some like business real life business examples and Uber is one of those examples. Um there are things that you can do to change the perception of people. Um typically it's the market who decides the timing of your business. Especially if it's not a traditional business, traditional businesses can run anytime. But if you're doing something innovative, it's usually the market that decides. And by market, I mean it's either some sort of a catastrophe has happened or something has changed in the way that people behave. COVID was a good time for that kind of thing. Something has changed in how people perceive it, and that can change a lot of that stuff. But I will get to that yet. I will absolutely 100% get to that. I'll cover it. If I don't, I'll talk about Uber and that will clear things up. Yeah.
Thank you.
So first step is proof of concept. It's usually, like I said, could be done on paper, could be a drawing, could be as simple as something that's taped together, just to showcase this is what this might look like. This is the core feature that we want to implement. Is this something that's meaningful to you? If it's not meaningful to you, what can we do better? And that's the proof of concept that you usually take like, hey, I had a concept. I think this can be built, and I built it. And can you please see if you want it? And people say, yeah, I don't want it. Or I absolutely want it, but I want it with more features. Or I want it, but it looks like it's held together with duct tape. So please improve the feature. So I want a better UI feature, or I want a better customer experience with this. So there's things that come in improvement. Prototype is a little bit sort of it's beyond the early adopters. So the proving the feasibility is very with people who are very targeted, people you might know, people in your network who might have that problem. That's the people who you are going to test out the proof of concept with. Prototype, you're probably going to go out, same kind of customers, but outside of your network. Same kind of people, but outside of your like first degree network. Same, you're going to go and show it at trade shows. You're going to go it out with it in public. You're going to ask people that you can get an unbiased opinion from. People who are not going to sugarcoat it for you because they don't know you. That's where the prototype comes in. And then the MVP comes in where it's the minimum viable product. It solves the core problem for the people that you're targeting. So minimum viable means it's viable means it can be done. Minimum viable is if nothing else exists, if these 10 features, if the 8 of the other features do not exist, the customer is still happy with these two core features. Everything else is an add-on. If those 10 do not exist, the customer is still happy with these two core features that are viable for me to do, and I can improve on this all day, every day, and the customer is going to be happy. They're going to get their money's worth. That's the MVP. And if you have enough people, and that's when how you test it out. Like if people, it's actually solving people's problems, people are actually willing to pay for it, that is when you achieve product market fit, because now you know that it's loved by people. If it's growing, if it's if your product is growing and people are buying it more and word of mouth starts taking off, that's when you know that PMF has been achieved and you've actually got something there, right? So that's usually the journey of any product, whether it's software, whether it's service, whether it's a hardware device, whether it's robots, whether it's a rocket, whatever it is. Anything that you're offering, once it gets to PMF, you know you have something that people will pay for, that you can build, that you only have to improve, and if you don't do anything else, you will make money out of this because you have growing customers for this, right? So that's PMF. Before, while you're doing this, how you're building it, you've kind of testing it out with the customers. So your customers are not always your users. Anybody know what the difference between customer and user is? Okay. Yeah. Very easy, quite very easy answer. That's like a one character answer, but yeah, the money. So your user is not always the person who pays the money. The person who pays the money is the customer. Whoever is paying for it is the customer. Whoever is using it might be a different person. The easiest example, let's say you have kids. You are buying a toy in Walmart for your kid. You're the customer. You are not the user. The user is the kid, right? That's the easiest way to remember customers and users. You're paying the money. The other person is somebody else is using it. In the same way in B2B businesses, somebody is in charge of giving you the money, but they might not be the end user for it. And you have to differentiate between those two if they are different. And you have to figure out who is the decision maker. Is it the customer or the user? For example, uh, you're buying I'll take the kid example again. You're buying a present for a kid for Christmas. You're the customer, you're going to gift it to a kid, and the kid is going to be the user. In that moment, you made the decision to buy, and in that moment, you were the decision maker. But you take the kid with you, like a 2-year-old, to the Walmart with you, and that kid is screaming their head off to get the toy. In that moment, the kid made that decision. The user made that decision. So how do toy companies usually work? For the kids, when they want the kid to make that decision, the one thing that they do is they showcase what it is. If it's a doll, it's shown what that doll looks like. It's hiding behind clear plastic. It's not hidden behind a cardboard. It's you can see what it is. If it's a truck, if it's either shown or the picture is so big that a kid will easily spot it, right? So that's how they make the decision. They force that decision for the kids. But when they want you to do the decision making, they also have, characters there. They have age of what age is appropriate for this, what kind of stuff you can do with it. This will encourage learning in the kid, all sorts of things that are mainly for the adults. The kid does not care about that. So those decisions guide just the packaging of that toy. So think of it that way. So literally all of those decisions come together to package that toy. And so identifying customer versus users, very important. Um, Now the customers that you're serving might not be a big enough market. It might just be a very, very small niche. And think of it this way, you could be building for the world, like literally everybody on the world, in the world, you expect to use your product. An example of that, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. These are more mass market things that you build. Or let's say laptops is a mass market thing.
Can I
But
just
lap,
ask a
yeah,
question
yeah,
before you go further?
yeah.
Just as you were talking about the kids versus the users versus the buyer.
Hmm.
I sell fireworks and I'm
Hmm.
constantly trying to figure out, am I supposed to be marketing to the kids?
Hmm.
Because they're the drivers of who really buys, of why or when the parents buy these fireworks.
Hmm.
I understand that the parents have the dollars, but when the kids are saying, I wanna, so is that
Hmm.
who we should be targeting then in our marketing plan? Because as you said, the packaging is for them, but with me specifically with fireworks, I'm
Hmm.
always on the fence. Do I market to the parents or do I market
Yeah.
to,
There is, and
and
so
what's the
the
fine
answer,
line?
yeah, the answer to that is not just one decision that impacts that. I will cover some other stuff of how
Okay.
you're delivering that product also matters. Is it being sold online? Is it being sold in person? Is it being delivered in a store? Or do you have control of that store, or does somebody else have control of that store? So there's a lot of decisions of how it's seen by the customer that impact that decision as well. We'll get to that. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So at the end, we'll cover all of these. So how your customers find you, again, it's if it's in a very niche thing, you are building, let's say you're building a software for engineers. That's probably a segment that only computer science engineers will care about your product. Nobody else. It's still global, but only a small segment of people who work in a particular kind of job will probably use your product. Nobody else cares about it. The niche is if within that segment there's like an age group who will only use this. The younger developers will use this, older developers will probably not care about this. The between the younger developers, if they're within a certain region, only they will use it. The other people outside of that region do not care about it geographically. So those kinds of that's determining your niche. You can start off with a niche and go to mass market, but you have to start off with a niche. You can also start targeting the masses super early, but then that doesn't give you the data that you need to figure out how to improve this over time. Because the mass market, everybody's opinion is going to be very different. You will not know how to differentiate the good opinion from the bad opinion. Uh, it might not challenge your assumptions enough. You have to be, because you don't have enough resources. So you have to be very efficient with what you have. So, and make sure that, it doesn't cost you as much. So it's better to start off with the niche, move into a bigger segment, and then go mass market. A good example of this is, I don't know if I want to cover this right now, but Tesla. Tesla started off with uh, just one target segment. These were people who cared about the environments, but and were also super rich. That was the segment. If you were rich, you owned a Tesla. If you were rich, you owned an iPhone. That was the perception that they created. Everybody else wanted to buy these products because the rich were using them. So you started off with a niche, mostly in Silicon Valley, everybody was driving a Tesla. Outside of that, nobody initially cared enough about it. But as the brand expanded, other people started seeing it, they kind of started adopting it, and that's how it grew. So you start off with a niche, the people that you really, really want to solve the problem for, it'll eventually keep on growing, and other people will find other use cases for it, and it will grow mass market slowly over time. Next decisions is how will they pay for it? What is the right model for you what works for you and your customers at the same time. Because both of those things have to work. If your customer is demanding something and you can't deliver, and or you just don't have the resources for it, or you can't work that way, it's not going to be the right fit for your business because you're going to try and pivot all the time and you're not going to be happy about it. If all of your customer says we want to do, let's say in B2B, for example, in B2B businesses, you usually you deliver the service and they pay you in 30 days, right? Or 60 days or 90 days, something like that. But if you don't have enough resources for your business to last those 30 days because of the cost that you have just like running that business, you don't have enough cash flow. You need that money up front. You can't be doing those services or getting paid for those services after 60 days because you just can't survive it. So it has to work for you and the customer as well. You have to come to an agreement like, hey, if you are going to do this delayed payment, I can only give you this amount of service. I can't give you this service. Or you have to do 50% upfront and I can give you 50%, you can pay me after 30 days. So you have to come to some sort of an agreement for these kinds of things. So, and also whatever the customer is comfortable with. If the customer wants to do a subscription, you say, I am not happy with the subscription model. With the service I'm providing, it's going to uh not be worth it for me to do the subscription model, and it's a one-time thing. I don't know if you will pay for it. If you cancel your subscription after the first month, I am at a loss. And I can't afford that 90% loss just because you canceled your subscription. So it's if they do a subscription, you have to lock them in for a year and say, oh, you do a subscription, but you pay a yearly thing. So you pay right now, but you don't have to pay for the rest of the year. And after the first year, you pay monthly. So you lock them in before by so that you can get your costs and you can recuperate your costs and all that kind of stuff. So the model has to work for both of you. It's not just you, it's not just the customer. Both of you have to kind of agree on it. And those are usually the most common methods. The ads brokerage is like something that you do on your own and can usually get you revenue. Customer doesn't have to be involved in that process, but they can be. Licensing is again is what you're in licensing. You're saying, well, I have this product. I don't want to build this. I will give this to somebody else to build. Just give me the royalty and I'll be happy with it. And you can do that licensing deal with a lot of people as well. So that's how payment subscriptions and sales, and that's how it usually work. I don't think I need to do any examples for the subscription and the payment stuff. Everybody's seen all of those things. But if you are unclear, ask me and I will cover some of those examples. Everything's clear so far? Cool. Next question is how you're going to deliver. This is where the fireworks questions also come into play. Who are your partners? These are the alliances. Are you selling it in Walmart? Are you selling it in a particular store? Do you own where the place where you're selling it, whatever platform it is on, whether it's a shop, whether it's an online store, whether it's a Shopify store? Do you own everything? Again, if you're using Shopify, that's kind of a partner. You're not building the website yourself. You're using Shopify. They're hosting it for you. They're handling the payments. You're just dragging and dropping things. That's kind of a partnership. And you have to figure out how many people you have. Do you have access to really cheap labor from international college students who are looking for a job and you can pay them minimum wage and they are going to take your product door to door? Or do you have the budget for it or no? And so the amount of people you have, the kind of team that you're building is very important. Financially, how much money do you have? How much potential money do you think is going to come in? Are customers paying for it? What are your profit margins that the customers are paying for it and you can kind of reinvest it back into the business? All those questions are also very important. IP and technology is not relevant for all the businesses. It's very relevant for technology businesses, obviously. But in a lot of businesses, you don't often have a monopoly in technology in any way. For example, if you wanted to start, even if you do an innovative restaurant of some kind, there's still no technology piece to it. Somebody else could still copy it. There's no IP in there. What if your chef decides to leave, the chef can do the same thing somewhere else. So it depends on the kind of business that you have. Not everybody has an IP. If you have an IP, it is better in terms of like in the technology business, you absolutely have to have an IP. If you don't have an IP, you can still have a growing business, but it may not be venture capital investable business. It may only be something that you can get grants for, something that you can get loans for, something that you can get uh, private equity firms can invest because it's a very stable business. And just the way that you function or the team that you have uh, affects how that business is growing. Let's say you have the most kick-ass person who can do a lot of great websites, and you're building a business around that person. That person's happy. They don't want exponential growth. It's an upward linear growth. There's still growth, but it's linear, it's not exponential if you don't have IP. If you're doing something in technology and you have IP, the growth is expected to be more exponential. Alliances and networks, it can come in a lot of different forms, from the person who is giving you services or product, or your manufacturers, to people you're collaborating with to deliver the product, the people who are taking the product from your manufacturing facility to the warehouse to the final customer, and because you don't have the people for all of these things when you're starting a business. So you might have to rely on existing partners for that kind of stuff, which is okay. Shopify is a great example for that. Amazon is a great example for that. If you list your product on Amazon, they come pick it up and they deliver to your customer. You don't have to do anything. Any other services or delivery service is also an example of that. So if you list your product on Uber or Uber Eats or whatever, they'll come and pick it up. Somebody will take it to the end customer. You don't have to worry about anything. The logistics of it, you don't have to worry about. Or let's say the delivery logistics, you don't have to worry about. You still have to create it. You still have to source the products. You still have to get the items that you want to make that go into making that product. And so those are your partners and the networks that you're using. So I'll expand a little bit on the human and the financial side. Um, why I said that it is important for you to know what you're building and why you're building it is because the team that you build, that whole culture of the company will be dependent on the founding team. If you're probably going to hire people that resonate with you. Their work ethic is similar to yours. Their way of thinking is similar to yours. They are as excited about your business as you are. They will still want to get paid. You'll probably be working without getting paid, but they still want to get paid. But they're willing to join in the risk a little bit. They might take a pay cut so that they can have equity in the company as well as her early employees. So these are going to be like very, very like-minded people. And when you're hiring those people, you have to be very slow when you're making that decision, because if you rush that decision, you can make terrible decisions of like giving away a piece of your company to an employee who doesn't turn out to be the right kind of fit for the company, for the culture that you're building. And then you have to fire that employee, and now they have, 10% equity of your company that they should not have. And the investors are going to say, why did you do this? And it reflects on you as a bad decision maker when you do that. So hire very, very slowly. There is an urge that you want to go fast, but when you're hiring, you can go fast with you and a bunch of your buddies, right? Because you know each other, you've worked together, you've lived together, you've had experiences together, so you know how everybody works. So if you're, college buddies, if you're bringing into the startup, those you can count on, then you can go fast. But if you're expecting somebody else who's joining to be as fast as you guys, you have to be very, very sure of that idea. And so if hire them on a trial basis, say we are going to give you equity the longer you stay, or this, and that's how companies usually structure it. That helps make sure that you and the employee is aligned. So make those hiring decisions very slowly and very, very thoroughly, right? The culture, like I said, is very dependent on the founding people, uh, because the new employees will look to you to see how you work. And if you're, taking a break, you're taking vacations, in the middle of the week, they will think that is okay for them to do that as well. And so if you're not putting in the effort, they will not put that effort in either. And that's just a bad culture to begin with. You want them to be you want them to be relaxed. You don't want to stress them out. You don't want to like burn them out, but you want them to be as productive as they can be when they're at work. Right. So it's good to have team building exercises. It's good to have, doing the other kind of stuff that builds the culture, and kind of brings the team together. But also, they should know, any and all employees should know that what you're building for, they know what that goal is, what that vision is, and they should be aligned for that vision. And they need to be as productive as possible to get to that vision as quickly. And that's the expectation. And when they go out into the world, they need to know the elevator pitch. Mostly founders do this where they do the elevator pitch to investors only, and they never really teach the elevator pitch to their employees, which is bad. Why? Because a lot of these employees are going to go out into the world at networking events that you don't have time to go for. They're going to meet people that you're not going to meet. And I've seen employees of companies struggle to describe what they do to me. Like I ask them, what do you do? What does the company do? And they have no idea how to describe it. So teach yourself and every single employee the elevator pitch, because A, it's also a good reminder for them to remember what that goal of the company is. B, when they meet somebody, they're pitching for you, right? So it's awesome. You never know if they might run into an investor. The investor runs into this employee and says, "What does your company do?" And the guy says, "Well, I don't know. I just work for a startup and I just do this thing at a startup, but they don't go into detail." That's a lost opportunity for you, because then the investor has no clue what they could have reached out to you, or that they could have taken the number, asked the employee to put you in touch with them. But that's a lost opportunity. So always teach your employees the elevator pitch. It's a good way to keep everybody aligned, basically. So on the team and culture side, always take care of this piece. On the funding side, it's very easy to say, "Oh, I want $2 million and I need this for, the next 2 years. This is what I'm going to build." It's usually not how the funding works. Most of the time, you get funding for what you're going to execute in the next year. Again, the business plan. So the business plan is going to last 6 months to a year, and that is how long your funding is going to last as well. When an investor asks, if you're at the angel stage, if you're like super early in your business and it's an angel investor and they ask for a business plan, that business plan is probably going to change every 6 months, maybe every 3 months. So when you're raising angel funding, you are not allowed to raise more than what you need for that 6 month, 9 month period, right? After that 9 month period, you're going to do the next round of pre-seed funding, then which is going to take you a year to execute. And that's what the funding is for. Then you get to seed stage after a year and a half, and then a year and a half, 2 years from that pre-seed. And now when you get to seed, you need a lot more capital to execute a business plan that is going to be, let's say, a year and a half to execute, and you need exact amount of funding for that piece. So that's how funding usually works. So you can't just ask for what all the costs that you will have in the future. That's not how funding works. You have to ask for it in what the next step is, what that next execution step is, what that next business plan is, and you're only allowed to raise for that. If you say, "Oh, I need $5 million, and that is the only amount I will ever need to raise. I will not need to raise ever again," then that's not the kind of investments that venture capital people do. You can raise that amount from a bank or somebody else, but if you are in the technology business, if you're in the venture capital business, that's not usually how it's going to work. So it's always important to know what that business plan is and the amount that you will need to execute that particular plan. That's it, right? So funding and growth paths, these are very important. And funding is just fuel for the model. It's you have costs and you have things to execute and you know how to execute them. They're working already. You just need more money to execute it at a faster rate. That's it. You need to hire more people. You need to run more marketing campaigns. You need to manufacture more products, whatever that looks like at every step. That's what the growth is. That's what it's fueling, basically. Everything clear on that till this point, because this is all the discussion on basically your business model. I will cover some examples next. Is everybody on board? Do you have any questions so far? No? Perfect. I will let you guys choose which one do you want me to talk about. I'll talk about two or three, but pick one of these. The first one is my company, so I don't want to convince anybody to ask about my company, but everybody else. Oh, Uber. Okay. WeWork. Okay. Amazon. Amazon. All right. WeWork. All right. Airbnb. I see a lot of WeWork and Amazon. All right. Okay. WeWork. Okay. I guess WeWork. Um, so let's talk about WeWork first, and then we'll go to maybe Amazon or Uber. Um, all of these companies have one thing in common. They're not technology heavy companies, except for Tesla. Tesla did something innovative, but they were not the only person doing it. So I'll come back to that. WeWork, in essence, not a technology heavy company. It's not the technology that they built. They didn't build an app. They were not the first people to build an app. Uber is the same way. They were not the first people to build an app. WeWork just made it more possible. Their business model was constructed in a way that it could work. It wasn't set up for scale, but on a smaller scale, it could work. They essentially said, there's this business place. Why don't we lease it out for a bunch of people to use this instead of it sitting idle? Right? So WeWork functions in that way. It's an office that you can go and work in if you are working from home. Instead of working from home, you're working from with other people. And it's not really a technology heavy thing. There's real estate involved. There is a subscription model involved, and that's pretty much it. It's not a very something that you have to do technology research for like 10 years. Literally anybody could have started WeWork, and that's why there's a lot of co-working spaces and stuff, cropped up. And that's because, again, it's only the innovation is happening in the business model, not on the product side, right? Uber did it the same way. Uh, I'll talk about Uber. So you just mentioned that, people were worried about getting into cabs of people they didn't know. But the reality was you did get into cars with people you didn't know. A taxi is a car that you don't know the driver of. When even though in the taxi you usually have like a medallion or something, they were still like, who pays attention to that? Nobody pays attention to the medallion. You're usually not talking to the taxi driver. Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. Um, if you were a tourist, you maybe talked to the taxi driver and got recommendations for it. But people were actually getting into the cabs. So the idea was when Uber started was people are already getting the cabs. You're just elevating that experience and giving them something a more personalized experience, making it seem like um, making them feel special, making them feel like they're going to prom and it's being driven by, like a limo driver or something. making that a special experience instead of just being a normal taxi. That was Uber when it started. It grew into something else. It changed the model over time. But when it started, it was just that. It was elevating the taxi experience, making sure that you could call the taxi on your phone. That was it. And if you got in the taxi, uh, you could just get out of the taxi and that was it. You didn't have to worry about cash. You didn't have to worry about saying to the driver like, "Hey, I don't have change. Can I get some change back?" Whatever. It was linked to your credit card and that was it. That was Uber's business model. That's all Uber was when it first launched. It was just an elevated taxi experience. That's it. Airbnb did the same thing. People had places and beds to give out. People were traveling and they saw a niche that people want, hotels fill out or hotels are too expensive and people don't want a hotel experience. They said, we have beds. Let's just start allowing people to give their beds away. If they have extra space, they're maybe, an older couple always had a dream of starting in B&B. Kids have gone to college. They have an empty room. Let's give them that space. That's all Airbnb was when it started. So there's no technology innovation in any of this, right? In Airbnb, in Uber, in WeWork, in Amazon. Amazon was, I hope everybody knows, was initially like a bookstore that you could buy the books online. That was all that it was. So they didn't reinvent books. They didn't come out with ebooks till much later. Uh, it wasn't anything technologically heavy in any way, shape, or form. The only thing was that they delivered the book, and they did it in like they improved that model. First, it was just ordering books online. You don't have to go to a store, so it's ease of access. Second is they started to improve on that model and said, oh, now we can deliver same day. Now we can deliver within 24 hours. Now we can deliver in this amount of time. And so they went with that. They started to, as they got more efficient, they went in with that model and they started offering that. And so none of this is more like, based on technology. It's not improved by technology. Later on, when they got to, massive warehouses and that needed to be managed, that's when technology came in and they acquired a bunch of robotics companies that handle all their back end. But at the core of it, it didn't start off that way. Tesla, I will talk about. Tesla did something innovative on the business side. So we have some time. Um, Tesla was not the only one doing self-driving cars. I was in Silicon Valley in 2017 and I saw a garage full of Google Waymo cars. I think probably close to 100 in their garages. And so they had them ready. They had those cars sitting fully functioning in Google offices at the time. And Tesla cars are not great. So if you compare coming from a self-driving guy who's built self-driving cars and worked on algorithms, the data that the Google car captures in a second is like a million data points, while Tesla maybe captures 100th of that. So it's in maybe thousands or 100,000s. And so or tens of thousands. So the data points is a massive difference. And those data points are needed to have a good self-driving capability. So what Google did was they said we will improve the technology piece till we can get it to a price point that is efficient. We can get the technology to gather the million data points. We are going to improve on the technology front. And we will make sure that this technology is perfect to the point that it will function right out of the gate. It will work really, really well. What Tesla did was Tesla said, we don't have the sensors that are that good. So what do we do? Instead of having, spending time in a lab and not releasing the product, let's release this to the rich and wealthy as a high-end car. So it was basically a high-end car with the promise that it will be self-driving. So it was basically a high-end sports car and all those models that came out early. This was catered to them. When they buy it, people who want to seem wealthy will buy it as well. And now Tesla had more cars on the road. So they were still getting the same data points. Now, if they have 100 cars on the road, they can still get the same amount of data points that the Google car was getting, but instead of getting it from one car, they're getting it from 100 cars. But now their car is on the road, which means they have brand recognition. So that was the business decision of this. Um, so they innovated on the business model and they said, well, we'll launch this product and then we'll come out with a cheaper one and then we'll come out with a cheaper one and then you'll other people will start to buy it because now the brand is set up as like a high-end thing and people will start to buy this product. Even though if it's a cheap model, it's not like extremely cheap. So our we will improve our self-driving the data that we need for the self-driving in that way. We'll gather it real time. We'll have other people drive the car while the sensors are automatically gathering all that data. We will make sure that we'll just give the people warning. Don't take your hands off the steering wheel even when it's in self-driving mode. So that's another way of doing it. They told everybody to do that, even though when people, sometimes did take their hands off the steering wheel. So they innovated on the business side rather than on the tech side and got to market first and to just create their brand. So Waymo had to do other kinds of things. Waymo were like, well, we have to just run taxis. So they had to pivot into a different business model. So that's how you do innovation on the business side. Even when you have a highly technical product, you can change on the innovation side and do a lot more things. Okay. Did I cover all of these? I covered all of them. But yeah, so these are ways that you can sort of innovate on the business side. In when you start to think about AI, I'll also talk about that. When you start to think about AI and how you might possibly be able to implement AI in your business, you have to remember this chain. Okay. I haven't written it down, but take note. The chain is you build it yourself. If it starts to work and small number of customers are happy with it, you try and optimize it. So you're doing it manually. Let's say you're a reservation company. You take reservations for restaurants. Initially, people just call you up or think that they're calling you or interacting with the app, but you're physically manually setting up their reservation on the back end. The second, once you get to a point where people are happy with the service, you go, okay, now I can hire other people to do this. Then you increase the number of people involved in that process. Um, and if you can get more people to run your customer service, run your, the operations piece of it, at that stage, you can scoot by pretty, within budgets and stuff. At some point, it will become impossible to scale that. You will reach a point where you have too many customers. You will reach a point where you can't have enough employees and you want to bring down the cost. And that is when AI gets kicked in. That's when automation of any sort, not just AI, but any sort of automation can come in and fix that issue. So, but first, it's you and for the founding team. Second is the increased number of employees, the growing team. And then at some point, you have AI and automation. You don't have to worry about AI if you're not in the technical AI field. So you can get to that point. Any business can leverage AI in multiple ways to be operationally more efficient, but you don't have to start off that way. Hopefully that's clear. Let me just, oh yeah. So last thought on this is basically know what you're doing, first off, why you're doing it, then love the people that you're doing it for, and love the fact that what you're doing, you have to absolutely enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, if your customers don't enjoy it, if you don't like interacting with those customers, it's not going to work out. So you have to love the people that you're doing it for. Even if they, are mad at you, you have to kind of love them. because that is feedback. If you mess up, you have to kind of own it. So you have to love the people that you're working for. And even though you're your own boss, you're working for your customers. You have to solve their problems and you have to listen to them and solve their problems. And only then can you change lives. And all of this requires a lot of execution on your part, requires a lot of sweat on your part, requires a lot of effort, sleepless nights on your part. So yeah, you better be careful about what you're doing. Um, any questions? We have about 25 minutes. So ask me any questions for your own business. Let's get into it a little bit on anything that we've talked about today.
I had a question. So earlier you were going through the revenue models. For the
Mhm.
licensing model, the other ones, those are straightforward and understood those. For the licensing model, could you give an example of what an example of that would be?
Sure. If you have a great IP, let's say you have, what could be a good example? Let's say I build an AI model, right? I build an AI model that is really, really good at what it does. I don't want to start a business. I don't care about starting a business. I think the model is really good. And I think there is a company out there that can use that model to give it to some other people, to their customers, and use it as within their product and could use it as an offering. I could license that model to them and say, take this, use freely, and just give me a percentage of the profit margins. That's it. Another way of doing it is in physical products where you have something proprietary. You build a toy, right? Now, do you want to set up a whole toy company? Or do you just want to go to somebody else, the bigger company who already makes that toy, and say, hey, there's this toy that I made. I've gotten rage reviews. People really want this. I don't have the capability to mass manufacture this. I could manufacture it in the little bit amount that I could, maybe like tens or hundreds of pieces. But now I'm getting like hundreds of thousands of pieces. I don't have that capability, and I don't want to set up that capability. So can you take over this as a licensing and give me the money? Give me the profits, a share of the profits, and I'm happy and I can go home and retire. I get a residual check and I get a check in the mail and I'm happy. So it depends on your alignment versus what you're looking for. So licensing usually happens to manufacturing people, software people, and you can do in all kinds of businesses.
And so do you sell it to only one organization or you can, because it's yours,
You
you
could
can
do.
sell it to as many as you want?
Uh, that's a question. That's a difficult question. It depends on the kind of rights that you're willing to give away. It
Okay.
depends on the product that you have and the kind of rights that you're willing to give away. Um, if you say somebody can has it depends on what the other person wants. That's a negotiation thing. If that other person wants all the rights to that product and will is ready to give you um, a deal where you get the residual checks, that's fine. If you don't want to give that away, you can hold back some rights of what they can do with it. For example, if you look up Creative Commons, it's how does open source differ from closed source? There's multiple levels in open source. Not everything is open source is open source. Open source can be you can copy this, you can customize it for your own use, but you're not allowed to manufacture it for yourself. You're not allowed to copy the same thing and manufacture it to yourself with your branding name, or you are not allowed to uh, 3D print this part. You can 3D print it all day, every day, but for yourself, you cannot sell this. So there's licensing of different kinds that you can have. And that applies to photographs, that applies to 3D models, that applies to software, hardware, all kinds of stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Anybody else have a question?
Manish, go for it.
Yeah. You talk about competition. So in other words, you are doing a startup
Mm-hmm.
and there are 10 companies like that in the United States or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you look at CRM, there are like 100 different companies doing CRM.
Mm-hmm.
If you are starting a company, how would you look at competition? Having competition is a good thing because people know about this product, or it's a
Yeah.
bad thing because you may not succeed.
So having a competition is good because that means the market is validated, that people have a need for this product. Perhaps the people are ready for the product to be delivered in a different way, but they have a need for it. So that's clear. So that's how I look at competition. The reason I came back to this slide is that now I will talk about my company, which like the first thing I started was roborium.com. And this was an online store for delivering robotic products, right? When I started this company, when I started the online store, there were 40 other online stores already in the market. 40, right? And so that's a lot of competition. And I was one of those people. And I just started. But I did it in a way that they could not. And I did it in a different way. My pricing was better. The way I delivered it was better. The way I customized my experience was better. The way I consolidated the whole value chain was unique to me. The products I offered were unique to me. So I was able to negotiate direct deals with manufacturers to be the only person within the country to be the distributor for that product. So I had exclusivity rights. So there's a lot of different ways within that model that within the business model that you can innovate. By the time I was done, I had 40% of the market share, basically more than 40% of the market share. So I was the biggest distributor for a bunch of the brands that I was supplying. And so literally nobody else could supply half those brands. And the ones that they could supply, the other people, the people who followed me and saw me doing this and tried to emulate me, didn't really know what my secret sauce was. So they could never really figure out how my pricing was better or how I got the biggest market share. And my revenue streams were different. Um, so they never could figure that part out, even though lots of competition, literally lots of competition within that space. So you can deliver it in a different way. Competition's good, but you can deliver it in a different way.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you have a particular business in mind, I can talk about your business specifically if you want.
Well, I'm at you said you have pre-seed and angel. I'm at pre-angel stage, so I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Pre-angel is the angel stage. That is exactly the right angel stage. But yeah. Um, some
Yeah, I can.
pre-angel is usually friends and family. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I can talk about it. Like if
Yeah.
nobody else has a question, I
Yeah.
can tell you what my company I'm thinking
Sure.
about is that the big problem today for seniors is loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some options for seniors to go out and meet people,
Mm-hmm.
but there are very few options online for seniors to do this. So the
Mm-hmm.
idea is to create an online community which is also moderated for seniors, and where you could connect with other people with the same interest, but not
Mm-hmm.
only connect, but there will be to have kind of a community meetings every day or every other day or something like that, so
Yeah.
that you can meet people on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, and learn something and create something together. So
Yeah.
that's the idea. And the reason I said competition is because there are some platforms similar exist in US, but not in Canada. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a growing market. Aging population is a big problem in Canada and US, so it's a growing market, so that's great. So you have the market, it's prime and ready. You will have challenges, you will have your assumptions challenged for sure, because you're trying to create an online community, and historically, older people do not have the best track record with online stuff in general in technology. So you can't target really, really old people. You have to be targeting tech savvy older people who are maybe just retiring or in that age group. If you target somebody who is 80 years old, might not be the right fit. So it will challenge some of your assumptions of the kind of people who are coming in and the kind of people that you're targeting. Um, the good thing is that you know the need that might exist and the need that you need to fulfill. Be flexible on how you deliver it. Be flexible in considering different options of what works, what doesn't work. And that's why you need to talk to customers. Be open to their suggestions. If they say, I don't do online stuff, I don't know how to use Facebook, or I don't, because there's a lot of scams happening on Facebook. So their kids usually say, just don't go on Facebook. And if you start off with a Facebook group, seniors are the target market for a lot of scams as well. So it can create negative perception, or they may never see it. So you have to instead focus on you might have to focus on the person who has access to the internet and wants their parent to be involved in that sort of a community. So
Yeah,
that could be,
that's you're right. That's one option to
yeah.
have
So that's one
family
option.
enroll.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
family, somebody is doing that decision for them, like I said. So they might not be the customer, they're the user of it, but somebody else making that decision. The other way of doing this is if, let's say, if you're targeting senior care facilities, somebody in that senior care facility who is in charge of entertainment uh, has to be tech savvy and has to use your product and get them out into the world and get them to do the kind of experiences that you're offering. So some of your assumptions might get challenged along the way, which is fine, which is the whole point of this.
Yeah, I mean you're correct. As you were talking, the thing that I was thinking about was the enrollment will be the biggest challenge.
Yep. Yep.
Once,
And
once, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
so you just talk to them. Talk to them, see what the actual problem is. Is it so there's multiple ways to solve this. The loneliness thing, there's people solving in a different way in whatever their strength is. Some people, I've seen people come out with robot dogs and cats, and the seniors seem to love it. And the cats don't require a lot of technical know-how. You could just like pet it like a normal cat, but they don't have to take care of the cat. There's no pooping involved, and nobody has to take care of the cat. So some people have solved it in that way, you know? Some people are solving it with social robots and telepresence robots and saying, you can stay connected to your children or somebody else, your friends and family, by pressing one button and it'll connect you to that person with using telepresence robots. If you
Sorry
now
to
know, yeah,
interrupt.
yeah.
Great examples there. Just really quickly, there are a couple of other questions as well. So I
Oh,
just
yeah,
want to make sure
absolutely.
that everybody gets their
Oh,
fair share
awesome.
of time with
I didn't
you.
notice.
So
I didn't
yeah,
notice that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we do.
Hit me.
The
Hit
chat's
me.
also full of questions. So
Oh,
Chandran,
sure.
I know that you have been waiting for a while, so we'll go to you. Chandran,
Challenge.
are you there?
Oh, there we go.
Well, yeah, I do have a question. I have a small company I just started this year, and I want to share my website, and I want to get some suggestions from you. But actually, um, for some reason, I do have some customers, but most of the customers they prefer in person. Right now, I'm trying to text my website. If I can get some suggestion from you, it would be great.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, this is my website, and it's a big plan. Anyway, so just start
Okay.
this year.
See.
Um, I'm a Latin dance teacher. Let me introduce my background. I'm a Latin dance teacher, and I
Mhm.
also hold a dance club in
Okay.
Toronto before. And I was teaching Mandarin and English. I
Oh.
built this website because I'm trying to looking for some person like someone we
Hmm.
can I can work with and I can be a partner together, and we can if someone they really look like they are interested in teaching language, and maybe we can cooperate and we can make money in China because China is a big market, and
Mm-hmm.
we trying to do some advertisement in China. And I gonna invite because you are different. You speak English or you speak different language from different country. If you can
Mm-hmm.
join my group and we can start in Chinese channels, it's gonna be a hot topic, I guess. That's the reason why I was building this website.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just start. And you know what? In the future, my plan, I was thinking about because I'm a teacher 10 years, I was thinking about maybe we can holding like a kind of like a study group and we can travel around the world and we can like parents and children they are joining our group and we can
Mm-hmm.
plan it travel around. So this is my plan. So I just need your suggestion. Anyway, so it's difficult. It's a little bit hard for me trying to find like partners join my group, and I don't make too much money about this website either.
Yeah, I get it. I like it's great that you have a plan. That's the most important point. You have to just the what the business model canvas does is puts the plan not just in your mind, but it's there to be seen by you and by other people and other people to give suggestions and add to it. And if things don't work out, you can easily edit those. So business model canvas is a good way of doing that. Just put it on a piece of paper and all your thoughts go on that piece of paper and try and edit and see which one's working, which one's not working. Um, Run small experiments. Don't put too much money in each of these experiments. Do Let's say if you don't run a $5,000 marketing campaign right out of the gate. You run a $5, $10, $50 marketing campaign and see what kind of results that gets you. So scale it down, the plan that you have, scale that plan down, see what kind of results you get. And if it is giving you the kind of results that you want and you're happy with and is worth your time and money, continue. And that's totally fine. I think you have a good plan.
And
I just looked at your website. I don't think there's, again, nobody ever will tell you that your idea is bad. I'm sorry, but and no investor will ever tell you that your idea is bad because they don't know if your idea is good or bad. There's no good or bad idea. It's all about the execution. If you're making money, the investor will say it's a good idea. Doesn't matter what it is. And so, and that's the honest truth that nobody will ever be able to tell you if it's a good or bad idea to run that till you actually do it. If it's giving you the returns, if it's generating money for your company, it's a good idea. That's the truth.
uh,
And
I,
that's, yeah.
All right,
I
Chinlen. If you have any follow-up question, please leave it in the chat for us. There are several other people, and we just have 6 minutes to power through. We'll make sure that we send the questions to Jasmeet and get his answers offline for all of you. Abhishek, we'll go to you next.
Hey, thank you. Hey, Jess. Everyone's asking about tech. I wanted to use your CPG experience.
Okay.
I'm a CPG company. I'm doing okay,
Hmm.
but my thing is now I want to get into new products. Uh,
Mm.
second thing is I am interested in acquisition,
Mm.
acquiring a smaller competing brand, and third is raising funds for the
Mm.
acquisition.
Okay.
So, I've for so far what I've done is I've I've picked products from my own background. I'm Indian. I picked paneer, right?
Hmm.
And I made that. It runs really, really well. But
Hmm.
what's next, right?
Mm.
How do you determine that from a CPG perspective?
So in the CPG space, if you have a well-known brand that is known for, a particular thing,
Yep.
um, do you want to branch out into a totally different kind of thing or a similar thing? Let's say if you're in the beverage industry, do you want to launch another beverage or a totally like different thing?
So I want to do ethnic products. So I
Okay.
do paneer. I have a line of frozen meals. I do ethnic sauces, Indian sauces. I'm now
Okay.
looking for my next thing. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, the obvious answer is I could do a my paneer still sells really well. I could definitely do a paneer samosa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
I
So
could
this
do
is it's the kind of the same category.
yeah.
It's not like a totally different category.
It's going to be the
Uh,
same category,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if you have the funding and the capability to execute it and you have the brand recognition, go for it. If you think your brand is not well known in these segments that you're operating in right now,
Yep.
and you think this new product will be more beneficial, do the new product and stop one of the old ones that's not working. So you have to kind of sort of make the decision based on resources you have.
Uh,
Um,
Sorry, the question
yeah.
was how do I determine which new product to start with?
Oh boy. Customer interviews. You ask the customers in some way, like, hey, you do a sampling tasting of kind, or you go out and reach to the customers and say, well, we'll give you a gift card or something if you give us your feedback, or we'll put your name in a raffle. I usually say this, and I've told this multiple times. It's a hack. You don't, it's not illegal, but it is kind of a thing that startups can do. If you don't have a lot of money, you offer people a chance to get into a raffle if they give you their opinion and fill out a form, or have a conversation with you, give you their email ID or phone number, and give you their feed. They give you your feed, your their feedback. Um, you say, well, you'll get a chance to be in this raffle and you can win this thing.
Okay.
But if you've been in a raffle before, people not nobody wins.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's right.
you don't have to deliver. After 2 days, they'll forget that they entered the raffle anyways. So you don't actually have to deliver it. So that's one of the ways that you can do that kind of thing where it's not kind of illegal. You can just say, well, somebody else won the raffle. Even
New
that,
guy.
even if that person's your cousin. Um, but
Don't fuck me.
yeah, it's not illegal to do that.
I
It's
hear you.
illegal if you're a gaming company, it's illegal to do that, but
Benditos.
otherwise for other businesses, not really.
No doubt.
Sorry, I
Okay.
think somebody has their mics unmuted,
No,
and
it's
I
fine.
think I've muted them.
Yep.
I think I'm almost out of time.
Yep.
Just I sent you a LinkedIn connection request.
Perfect.
Hopefully I can we can have a chat offline
Perfect.
or
Perfect.
away from this, but I'll
If
let
any,
somebody else
yeah,
have the last 1 minute.
absolutely. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute.
Yeah.
I think just me, there are a bunch of questions around your own company, how you
Okay.
started it, how you innovated it. So we'll take that as the last question.
Yeah.
I'll go through the chat later. If there's any other question relevant for you, I'll flip
Yeah.
it over via email.
Yeah, basically, that was the one thing I did. When I launched Roborium, there was a lot of competition. I brought in products that they didn't have. What they were doing was, so the value change, how it worked was somebody in China was manufacturing it. They were delivering to India. Somebody was bringing that product in, giving it to the warehouse. The warehouse people were sending it out into the wholesale market, and then these online stores were basically just picking up the stuff from the wholesale market and selling it with their markup on top of this. What I did was I got directly in touch with the manufacturers and I took out all the middlemen. I had better products, better pricing, cheaper pricing, because I was the only person within that chain, because I had my online store and I had the connection to the manufacturer. So I was the only other middleman within that chain. So that chain got reduced, which means not everybody's taking profits. So everybody has like 20% profit for themselves. So that got reduced. So I could offer it at the same price that other people were and get a lot more profit, or supremely undercut the pricing. And then I got to a point where I was delivering products that they didn't know about. These other, because it was not available in the local market. So, because I was in that ecosystem, I already knew what products to use. I had used those products myself. And so I started to, when I had those kind of agreements, I would say, well, I want exclusivity. I want to be the guy that, supplies those products within India. And I got it. I got those exclusivities because I just reached out to the CEOs and said, "Hey, I have an online store, I have distribution. This is a market for you. If you want to be in the market, let me know. I got you covered. I'll take care of it." And they were happy with the way that I worked, and I gave them payments up front instead of, doing a delayed payment after 30 days. I gave them payments up front and they shipped out the products on time. Everything went smoothly. So I optimized that value chain, delivery logistics piece of it instead of focusing on the technology and, doing that stuff. Ultimately, I got to the technology piece as well. I had multiple businesses, but that was the first thing that I started, which was not tech heavy at all.
That's awesome. Like
Yeah.
figuring out a problem that exists in the
In the chain.
existing system and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, that is my expertise. I go into a system and I see what the problem is. The best way to figure that out is to talk to the lowest person in the chain. If you talk to the janitor will reveal all the secrets of the company. They hear all the gossip. So they will tell you everything you need to know, and they'll appreciate you having a conversation with them while everybody else ignores them. So it's a great way to find out what your competitor is doing. Just have a conversation with the lowest person in that chain because they know what the problem is.